YouTube comments from a video titled, Gen Alpha Can't Read and Teachers Are FEDUP. Part 8.
At Faust 5398 wrote,
The businesses around high schools, where I live in Canada, can't stay open. It's not a majority of homeless people that are stealing now. It's kids, and they are ruining everything around. It's sad. And I'm supposed to feel bad for the lazy generation who is deciding to be stay-at-home sons.
At Apache Viking 210 wrote,
So if I got this right, if you tell people that they need to have children or they're being selfish and their lives are meaningless, they have children that they didn't think about what they were signing up for or what they were getting themselves into, they just dump their responsibilities of raising a child onto other people. Raise your OWN kids. As for kids refusing to participate in the classroom, give them an F. Let them fail. Stop babysitting. Stop coddling them. Let them fail. Didn't turn in an assignment on time. Let them fail. Parents complained. Let them fail. Refusing to follow instructions. Let them fail. Parents don't like the refusal to give their kids special privileges. Let them fail. They earned it.
At Lukakow wrote,
I want to say that many parents take advantage of EAPS in order not to have to potty train kids so they can send them to school in diapers and hope the teachers will do their job for them.
Dash 8H wrote,
Kids having phones, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, social media, and a lot of content that encourages stupidity and give them the inability to focus or pay attention. TBH, I think internet should be a 16 plus or 18 plus thing. Like for everything. They don't need it.
At Weirdly Gruesome wrote,
As a teacher myself, I don't spend money that I can't get back from the school because the school should provide the necessary books. Number 2, it does not take a village to raise a child. It takes parents to raise a child. It's quite frankly, I could care less if your kid could read it or not. I will give him the tools. I will instruct that, but if you, the parent, are not going to enforce what I teach, there's nothing I can do for you. My kids can read. My kids will do well and dominate over yours, so we need ditch diggers too. I guess that's what your kids will do, why mine go to financial independence, and that's just the way it is.
At Cynthia Moon 23 wrote,
This is more of an issue with younger millennials and older Gen Z. Older millennials are more like late Gen X. This is the 80s, why Johnny can't read. Redux.
The Stvadvil wrote,
It's an age-old problem, irresponsible people having kids. For my and my parents' generation, the solution was typically family taking over raising the kids. But with the breakdown of familial connections, smaller families, and consumerism, there is no family to fall back on, hence why this type of bad parenting is falling for Marxist village talk and giving up their parental rights and responsibilities.
At 2RG_ wrote,
I am completely on the side of the educators here, and I see this decline just interacting with my younger relatives. However, how I feel about teachers venting on social media like this.
At Vodaderpikasemufins wrote,
I remember I was sent to preschool, and when I was 4, they had us memorize our home phone number and address so we could be able to tell someone in an emergency. They made cards with glitter glue too so we could see and read it. Every summer, my family would take a long car trip to somewhere to visit other family members. Long enough, it usually took 2 days of driving. We had gotten a car used, so while it had a DVD player, it was broken, but it did also have a cassette player. My parents made sure to find cassette audiobooks to listen to. When I was between kindergarten and first grade, one of the books they found was Nancy Drew. I got hooked and they found more from the series, pulled out an old cassette playing radio from my room, and got me a book to follow along with. I was 6 and they weren't even really reading to me, but I was still being read to. Eventually I learned I have mild dyslexia, which makes sense with how I was so advanced for reading, but couldn't spell for beans, and I sort of attribute that to my parents helping make sure I was learning to read at home. Now I work at a childcare area for post-school care. I've semi-recently run into 2 students in the same age in grade 3rd. One didn't know what plural meant, which surprised me as I thought they would have learned already, but maybe I was mistaken. The other didn't know how to spell some, will, or one, and had to get a different classmate to help with spelling those words. Unfortunately, I see a number of kids in these situations that I'm taking care of. Yes, we have kids whose parents are putting in the effort despite having to leave their kids with us for what can be up to hours because they're stuck at work. But the child who was having trouble spelling often is with us for not even an hour, so it's likely a home issue there. Not to mention the amount of parents who do seem to leave their child with us because it means less time they have to be taking care of their child. The worst part is that most of these kids are all coming from the school I used to attend. Some of the teachers from when I was going there are still working there, not many, but not zero. I know what that school used to be like, but even with whatever is going on at home, I know there is some issue with the school that unfortunately is in part as bad as it is due to the parents. I've heard too many stories of so-and-so was gonna get in trouble for breaking a rule, but then their mom/dad visited the school and got upset, so now they don't get in trouble for it anymore. Worst is it being a private school with a loose uniform policy. But a parent raised a stick about their kid being made to wear a uniform, and it's like, you chose to send them to the school with uniforms. There's other schools around without. Why are you upset?
At Natalie Martin 8288 wrote,
These Gen Alpha children. All of these descriptions and statistics are the exact reasons why I retired. The teacher who spoke on high school expectations is also seen in 8th graders. All of these reasons, and more, are exactly why I retired from being an educator since 1988.
at Enigmalfidelity wrote,
Clear was the kid in class who could read perfectly, pronouncing every word clearly, and longed for the paragraphs, only to have the bad readers get the large paragraphs while you get a 1 to 2 sentences? Were you the one who had to sit and listen to kids struggle with because an appointment? Sure was a pain, wasn't it? Imagine an entire class of those kids. 1, maybe 2, can read well.
as Sonia Mace 1067 wrote,
The Ka government has now made it a law that public schools now have to accept children that are not potty trained, whether they're in TK or 3rd grade.
at Vivalanina wrote,
When I was a kid, my mom would let me use soap on a mirror like a chalkboard to do math. It was fun to make a little mess while learning, or practice in the sand for a moment on the beach. I'm super thankful she thought it through.
at Ben Sutherland 4160 wrote,
While I agree with most of this, we can't look at the potty training in a vacuum. As a child, I was advanced in almost everything. I could read books independently by my 4th birthday, and I could do basic math. However, I was behind on potty training. I got it before I started school, but I came pretty close. My parents had me out of diapers in August, the year I started school. I am autistic, but even so, now I am 18 and am a physics student at university. My slow potty training has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of my life. It can easily come from neglect, but other issues can come up. It was not my parents' fault. I was ahead in so much that I had to be behind in something. Also, we have iPads in Canada, and the problem isn't nearly this bad, so it can't be their fault.
Adaniamo 84 wrote,
How can people afford to have a 5 in diapers? That's insane. Grown-up normal food makes leavings that are very dangerous for skin contact. It's really dangerous for the kid and the people around them that shouldn't come in contact with fecal matter.
At LePays 5477 wrote,
Okay, so to the 7th grade teacher who's admitting the curriculum they use is horrid. I agree parents should help. But your job is to choose the curriculum. The teachers need to pester the schools and find better curricula that actually work for them and the kids. Also, to parents, take your kid to the library.
At Viking Goddess 2126 wrote,
My teen had a lot of packets. In high school, one teacher even didn't like answering questions from the female students. A female teacher showed favoritism to the boys in her class.
At Lonely Lost Boy wrote,
I'm dyslexic. I have struggled my whole life. And I get my employees who come in here and can't even read as good as I can. I don't get it. Also, schools and teachers are there to teach their kids, not raise them.
At Blake Berryman 7392 wrote,
I said it once, and I'll say it again. Social media has ruined the way of the Americans / the world and has desensitized us to a point where comically immature people are having kids themselves and setting up a generation of terrifyingly dumb kids.
At Daniel Moyle 5503 wrote,
The first target is the parents. Once the parent is destroyed, the primary target, kids, is ripe for attack. Make them useless and dumb so they can't resist America's destruction and the end of the last true free country with a real constitution. Keep eating your cake and fast food. Keep watching the mind-destroying trash coming out of the film industry. And above all else, keep ignoring your kids. Be sure to stuff your kid's face with cereal to make them tired and unhealthy right before sending them to learn.
At Studio Sonderhaus wrote,
How to succeed at life 1. Give your life to Jesus 2. Get married 3. Have kids 4. Raise your children with love and Christ-likeness 5. Homeschool your kids 6. Watch the rest of society fracture and fade 7. Love everyone in that fractured society anyway. Tell them about Jesus and teach your kids to do the same 8. Die old and happy, the end.
At Ellie BU7YF wrote,
When you work with kids, potty accidents are part of the job, actually. The fact this lady thinks this is so gross, and she is above all this is proof she is not suited to this job. What about the poor child who has an accident? Maybe she could work with college students? Oh, but wait. For that, you need to maybe be educated and quit posting on TikTok.
At fools__honey wrote,
I fell in love with comics as a kid, and my grandparents, fully supporting that, started sending me hardback books of the original X-Men comics and collections of Spider-Man's 1970s newspaper serializations. In school, I tended to have better reading comprehension than my classmates, some of whom would read haltingly. And what better role models could one find than the heroes of early Marvel? When my sister starts having kids of her own, I'm fully intending to add to the children's bookshelf.
At Secret Squirrel Fun wrote,
Hi there. Please excuse my ignorance regarding the U.S. education system. I'm not from the USA. I'm in Sydney, Australia. Please, could someone explain to me what you mean when you say packet or doing a packet? Thank you, Amo.
At Brass Chick 4214 wrote,
Yikes, some of these stories. Personally, I am so annoyed by news stories being only audio now. I can read faster than listening. I skip over them. Parents need to step up and parent. Potty training and manners decent behavior are a start.
Joragopi wrote,
I'm a millennial parent, and this is insane. My son has been able to read since he was 2, and him now about to be 4 years old. There's only a limited amount of words that he is not able to fully read.
Ku17 wrote,
I remember kindergarten, pre-K, and preschool. Most of us were fully potty trained before entering preschool. In fact, I think I remember finding out one girl still wore diapers because it surprised and confused me.
At Niskan Rohid wrote,
It takes a village to raise a child. What this actually means is, if the friends and family that you keep around are not safe and not good people, then you shouldn't have kids. And if you yourself are not capable of maintaining stable, healthy relationships with friends and family, then you shouldn't have kids.
At the RMSMIT wrote,
What country is this? I am a father in Australia, and I am pretty sure not school in Australia would accept a child into kindergarten if they are not potty trained. That is something for preschool and parents to have sorted long before kindergarten.
At Marcus Themarcleft wrote,
As a Gen Alpha with ADHD, this is sad when they don't focus on their own will. I have struggled with focusing generally, but I've been trying my best, and I personally feel disappointed in my gen.
At Full Circle Repair 2655 wrote,
This younger generation is ridiculous. They are going to be the ruin of the world if it goes any further. Anything, not a car, not anything. The only thing they can do or work on maybe as a computer or a phone they can't. Train a child, they can't teach a child. They can't potty train a child and they want someone else to do it for. Then play also expect their parents and others to give their money, buy their cars, and pay their bills. I never heard of such stuff. If you don't work, you don't eat, you don't get educated, you don't work. If you can't support you yourself, by the time you're 18 years old, you have a problem in my family, and growing up in the age and time I did.
At Adencinemo 077 wrote,
Agreed, the system is broken. There are no real consequences for Gen Alpha anymore. They believe they are at your level and can negotiate the rules with you. If I tried that in the 90s, when I was in the grad school system, I would have been smacked straight across the face by someone figuratively speaking. I'd been a visual arts teacher K-12 only 5 years now, but even something fun like art is challenging their 3-second attention spans.
At Amber Dawn 7011 wrote,
Parents should not be allowed to send their child to public school if their child is not potty trained. Developmental delayed children are obviously an exception, but come on guys, this is messed up. Both my boys were potty trained by 2 years old during the day. And I know that some are not ready by then, but there is still 3 more years to work in it before kinder. Oh, pro.
At Rodel Henriksen wrote,
How is this not the most talked about issue in America right now? Because your country is on fire and hard at work dragging the rest of the world with it. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot to unpack with the American school system and American parents, but you're living in the cracked eggshells of a freshly born Fourth Reich. My brother in Christ, you'll need to worry about the present if those kids are meant to have any future.
At Odo Kagoroshi wrote,
It really feels as if increasingly parents don't want to parent. Be it punishment, boundaries, teaching them life skills, or just explaining important things to them. I'm an older millennial and not a parent, but I have helped raise a number of kids and my sister is a teacher. I understand that increasingly parents are having to spend more time at work because late-stage capitalism is a hellscape and more people are struggling to just keep food on the table and the lights on. But you can't rely on others to do things they are not there to do.
At 7663 wrote,
Oh wow,
Just on the potty training thing. My kid is 13 now, and we had a bit of trouble with potty training, but B was fully potty ready by kindergarten. This is wild.
At Carla Richards, 8921 wrote,
This is because the teachers are not asking them to read from their phones. This is all they know. They are a new species of humanoids. Bottom line. Y'all trying to figure crap out. It's facts. They do not compute in human language.
At Arisioshi 2323 wrote,
Your parents need to make sure you get homework done. Make sure they sit down and do it before you let them watch TV or get on their phone. Go over with them. My mother did this with me until 6th or 7th grade, and unless I was getting slow BS or CS, she wouldn't hassle me. But when I wasn't getting good grades, she would make me sit there and make sure I knew what I was doing. Parents have a lot to do with this.
At Wild Adventures 4173 wrote,
This is why AI is coming out now, because Gen Alpha and beta heads are not going to want to work, etc. AI already knows soft parenting and cell phones as part of the program.
At BK Neifert wrote,
I think a large part of it is the American attitude. Americans, especially the generations taking up the teaching, are purely selfish people. I've grown up with them. I know they are self-centered and spoiled themselves. So that's probably the number one issue. The second is not enough discipline in the classroom. The third is too many distractions.
At Regiment 6541 wrote,
Wait a second, in my day, kindergarten was for 5 years old. How the hell is a 5-year-old not potty trained yet? We are obviously devolving as a human race.
At Wild Adventures 4173 wrote,
WTF a kindergartner in diapers, that's lazy parenting. I know a mom that has a freshman student / high schooler that still wears diapers. There's nothing wrong with her mentally or physically, just lazy mama and child. I tried to potty train her, but didn't work because parents not following through.
At Gwaxery wrote,
It would be interesting to see how it looks in different countries. Is it just a result of uncontrolled influence of tech industry on societies, and how much it is a deliberate plan to weaken democracies?
At Thomas Cross 8339 wrote,
Very interesting. Almost as interesting is how 2025 American discourse carefully omits those parents having the money to care for children properly because how much we despise the poor.
Isachimokins wrote,
No child left behind really ruined education. My grandma was a teacher when it was signed into law, and she said it made her job miserable. So many kids she was teaching how to read that needed to be held back and couldn't be was unreal.
At Barker by Keprit 4916 wrote,
It can be a sign of a learning disability or psychological issue to not know how to use the potty by age 5. If it's from lack of training, the parents are robbing their child of functioning skills. It's abusive.
At No Thank You 2.0 wrote,
Thing about using a paper as a worksheet versus a computer, it's not expensive to replace. Kids can do paper homework and use a photo scanner to turn in their classroom.
At Stephanilu 7694 wrote,
If you can't spend 30 minutes a day teaching your kids something new and have kids, you clearly don't have the time or true desire for them. They are not just an accessory to pop out of you and have in your house. They are human beings that need proper care and teaching, whether academia or domestic skills. Raising children is the parent's job. That's what makes you a parent. Teachers are not your kid's parent.
At X Pablo 1376 wrote,
People really are trying to blame parents, but we don't make an environment for families to exist anymore. A single income is not enough to pay for shelter, food, and basics. If you have a kid that's basically playing on hardcore mode, you're either working 8 to 6 or 3 gigs and no benefits. All of adds to time to spent on raising a child. And now with abortion banned in some places, people are FGED. You need to have time for you kid, and people don't have it with always working, coming home exhausted, still having to cook and clean. It's not the same environment millennials grew up in. It's worse. Vouchers taking away funding from public schools, and people too exhausted to attend town hall meetings to fight for basics. People fought to have 8-hour work weeks because CORE wanted us to slave for 16. The minimum wage has completely been abandoned thanks to inflation crushing spending power, leading to no one having enough but executives and the wealthy. We are going backwards in worker rights.
At Lady, Leo 12 wrote,
I worked at school teaching 6th grade, and a teacher friend came into my classroom upset and on the verge of quitting. She was a 5th grade teacher who had a student who came to school in diapers BC of a medical condition. The problem was the kid would mess on himself, and it would stink up the entire classroom. Mom was called. She was a single mom with very little support system, repeatedly about coming to the school and cleaning up her child or taking him home. Well, eventually she stopped answering the calls because she was at work, so kid was forced to stay in his mess all day in the classroom. My friend had got very little support from the mom, school admin, and district high-ups. She basically was told to deal with it, hence the reason for her wanting to quit. Can you imagine trying to teach while your classroom smells like crap and students are complaining about the smell? Anyway, I left the school at the end of that year BC. I knew they were going to put that kid in my classroom the following year, and there was no effing way I was dealing with that shit. Some of these parents are crazy with their expectations, but admins are just as bad.
At Meadowlark Voices 5359 wrote,
I'd like to take a step into the parents' world and ask the parents who have small children not to work night shifts, if at all possible, to establish or regular routines. And I'd like to ask employers to do less night shifts so they can have a bigger CEO payout. We are burning and taking advantage of it and squandering the energy of young parents and families when it would be healthier for any family to have one parent at home. I don't care whether that's any spouse or gender, but somebody needs to be at home to help students have and children have routines, consistency, things they can count on, know what's gonna happen, because when they don't, they kind of just already are in a type of trauma where they're in a protection and survival mode instead of thriving. Then the kids come to school traumatized already, not including all manner of other problems in their ACE scores, but not ready to learn, not able to learn, because they didn't have a family life that was stable and reliable. So society is doing this to itself, and companies to ask people to work long hours and weekends and not have enough vacation time are also a huge part of the problem.
And Mama Olden wrote,
So tired of everyone blaming the pandemic. That was 5 years ago. We're talking about today. Advancements in technology has helped the world, but has destroyed education and learning for children and become an addiction for both adults and children. Everything has been made so easy for the younger generations that they cannot problem solve and thrive in life. All they are being taught is important in life is how to become emotionally unstable and dependent on others, and how everything in life should be automatically given to them no matter what. It's going to be costly to them as older adults when the majority can't read, write, cook, clean, or handle any basic life skills without expecting someone else to do things for them. Even the lowest income class children display a behavior of entitlement well above their living situations, expecting to be waited on, hand and foot, and simple jobs that are not content creators or door dashers are beneath them. Young parents don't care that their kids are on devices. As long as they are not bothering the parents, then they're fine. And the amount of time the parents scrolled Facebook, they could be teaching their child. But most parents have become lazy themselves and entitled. Kids can't read or write because they don't feel the need to, as computers and phones do it for them, and having devices in the classrooms for each student has further dumbed down the lessons and reading and learning to write for these kids. They are at school 6, maybe 7 hours a day, and parents expect a complete stranger. They just met the teacher. To raise their child like a single parent of 30+ kids with no help and put up with the bad learned behaviors of your child and kids who don't want to learn or be on their phones or show off, and barely get 1 hour a day to actually teach while the parents go out with friends out to eat or sit on their buttes on their devices ignoring their kids, because that is so much more important. Then they try to use the excuse that they work, and so on when they had 30 minutes or an hour to be with their kid and read and more with them, but chose not to. When I go to parent information nights, I see 9 out of 12 parents ignoring the teachers and scrolling on their phones, and then later want to blame the teacher or try to say nothing was told to them or no information was given to them. But then you completely understand where the child learned their bad behaviors and habits. So much needs to change and revert back to 10 years ago, where textbooks were the learning guides and kids were actually held accountable for bad behaviors, and kids with a grade of D or F did not graduate and were required to retake the class. We also need psychologists out of teaching areas and anything that is promoting mental illness as something to be praised as a fashion trend and social trend. As in the last 4 years, false diagnoses for social emotional problems in youth have gone up 200% with diagnosis, from everyone having ADHD to depression or being told they have some form of autism undiagnosed with no proof of years of testing and used as an excuse and scapegoat for children with bad behavior and who refuse to do school work, and parents to not take accountability for lack of parenting and teaching and raising their children right. Good gravy, the world is upside down right now and definitely needs help.
At Emmanuel Fitokifitoki 2917 wrote,
If parents cannot take care of their child's education, then their grandparents or the someone else should take care of the child's education by helping the child and making sure every child can read and do math too. True, it is the job of the family to potty train their child. 3 people need to put their family first and make time for kids, grandkids, even it means helping them in their own language. 4 and people need to be more involved in their kids' education, even if they are not the father or mother of that kid, and teachers finding out what students' interests and what works for students could fix the problem of students not paying attention in class.
At Everett Clean wrote,
The majority of children that have graduated HS since around 1983, ever since they started getting rid of male teachers pre-college, then they started hiring teachers with psychological disorders.
Adanis Framed wrote,
Sounds kinda stupid that you believe the world is out to get your babies, but you send the kids off hoping others in society will change your kids' drawers. These parents have more shit in their heads than their juniors have in their pants. And how much are you willing to spend on diapers? Ain't 2 years worth enough? The only thing your kids are gonna learn from you is how to jack off.
Tab Easley wrote,
DEI to get into college, they lowered the bar. After college into teaching, again DEI lowered THEBAR. You put shits in, you shits out. Granted, not all teachers, many are great teachers that didn't have the bar lowered to begin with and had to work hard and are great teachers. But you also have to look at the woke ideology they started pushing into schools, where kids were basically being taught what to think instead of how to think. and teachers putting more emphasis on teaching their woke agendas and ideologies instead of actually teaching something kids could really use, like reading.
Tabby Easley wrote,
I understand you have the teachers who go above and beyond, but you also have the DEI teachers, the ones who were let into college with lower standards to begin with. So how do you think that trickles down to teaching children? The standard of the teacher is already degraded before they ever began to teach. That translates to less effective teachers.
At Parker5989 wrote,
Childminders in the UK have to teach kids how to brush their teeth. Outrageous. It seems like the lunatic lefty society, which has been so determined not blame anyone for anything, has failed to tell parents to start parenting.
Clever Kitten wrote,
632, I can't even fathom sending your child to first grade unable to read. Not even being toilet trained is child abuse, plain and simple. God bless this caring teacher.
At Rosematter5547 wrote,
My papa had to sit at home with a Bible and struggle to teach himself to write and read, and now look! The opportunity is there and people don't take it. Reading and books are the best gift I've ever been given, I think.
At Gilliantover3225 wrote,
Parents don't read to their kids every day. Don't stay engaged in kids' education. And don't teach and enforce respect for others. No. Teaching respect does not mean hitting kids old school. It means having the teacher's back and trusting the adult first until evidence indicates the other adult is not trustworthy, because kids literally don't know how to be decent people yet and can't be trusted to be that yet. And no typical development kid over 3 years old should be in diapers or training pants. Potty training should start no later than the second birthday for typically developing kids.
As Soaring_Penguin wrote,
I don't understand how the parents aren't outrageously ashamed to send a 5-plus-year-old to school who isn't potty trained. You really want to declare to the world that you failed that hard at being a parent.
At AaronCunsa7494 wrote,
Science and superstition are binary words. Got a dictionary? Look up adult illiteracy in America. 22 to 23% of American adults can't read. 33 to 37% of American adults can't read at or above a 5th grade level. It's 60%. At an 8th. The only people arguing with the science is the church. Lucifer's knowledge is not allowed in church. The story of Adam and Eve covers that.
SoCal Mama wrote,
The potty training thing blows my mind. When I was a kid, kindergarten was less academic and more about learning how to finger paint and behave in a classroom. At no time was it ever considered acceptable to send your kid in diapers unless there was a medical developmental cause for their incontinence.
At Donald Ducky wrote,
It's honestly exhausting the amount of things that people think is supposed to fall on teachers nowadays. I just saw an old person flabbergasted that schools don't teach proper manners. I was never taught manners in school either. Because being taught manners is your parents' responsibility. Yes, it's unfortunate that not everybody has amazing, perfect parents. I know I sure didn't. But nonetheless, not everything can fall on teachers. At some point, we need to be pressuring parents to do better.
At William Shar 2959 wrote,
I disagree on the lack of effort and motivation being deliberate. These kids have been trained by technology, social media, and even our news landscape. They are doing what their parents and society has made them. Also, the lack of social engagement outside of phones and schools has made them lack any confidence or any ability to engage.
At Rogue0621 wrote,
When my children turn 2, I complete potty training. I start placing them on the potty in the morning, before or after breakfast, depending on their poop schedule. My 2, they're able to verbalize their needs, like wanting juice or What kind of snacks you can tell me when you have to potty? So, by a month after the second birthday, they are completely potty trained. Stop buying pull-ups. No pull-ups even at night. Parents, you have to get that child up at night to go potty. They will go back to sleep. Limit the amount of liquids. They have no liquids past 7 p.m. So that child mindlessly walking around with a sippy cup ends. Parents have to parent and stop being lazy.
At Allegretto a Tempo wrote,
I took a year off to stay home with my daughter when she was born, decided to try elimination communication with her. She stopped pooping in a diaper when she was 1, but still wets her pads regularly at 4 because she's 8 head and oppositional defiant. She knows we can't stop her from peeing herself, and there's no reward she wants more than to have that power over the adults in her life. And no punishment sufficient to stop her from using that power. We are not willing to beat our children, so that's literally the only thing we haven't tried. You wouldn't believe how many boomers and Gen X parents have told us we just need to start hitting. Our neurodivergent 4-year-old daughter. So fucked. Oh, one.
At Marta Acosta 4415 wrote,
When there's no belief in God, there's no reason to be civil or have a civil society. I'm speaking in very general terms. I'm talking about society as a whole. For whatever reason, many in our country no longer believe in God and do not take their families to church or synagogue. People will say that it isn't necessary to believe in God in order to live morally and ethically, and maybe not, but a little at a time, morals disappear, and children are not desired or valued. So eventually parents don't teach their kids to even use the toilet, much less values. Why not just abort them and not bother with them? The abortion statistics are astronomical. We sacrifice our children to laziness. Sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins.
Isutia 424 wrote,
People have it twisted. Pull. Parents should have to help the teacher. The teacher is supposed to be helping the parents. Parents simply want to birth the kids and no more. But if you discipline the child for anything they want to turn up and get you fired, and it's not a racial or socioeconomic issue either.
At the Motivational Inspirationist wrote,
They can't read because their parents can't read. My daughter is 26 years old. When she was in the 1st grade, schools across the country adopted something called sight words. They removed phonics from the curriculum. And because of that decision, we are now facing this exact issue.
The 1441 wrote,
It was earlier this year where CNN had the story of a young lady from Connecticut who received a scholarship to go college that cannot read or write. She used text-to-speech programs to slip by. After her story on CNN, she apparently went on to sue her local school system. I guess the embarrassment on national news was a bit too much for her or too rich for a lawyer to pass up. The CNN person was genuinely shocked by her. NYC schools grades 3 to 8 barely break 50% for reading, and don't even look at Baltimore, as it's so bad it makes you wonder what they do all day.
At Lulubao 1 wrote,
I've got 2 sets of twins, so there was no way I was paying to keep them in diapers that long. But even if they were free, life's so much easier when kids are potty trained. It doesn't even take that long. Stay at home for a week. Let them pee their pants a couple of times, and they'll soon learn they hate the wet feeling.
At Victoria McDuffie 9216 wrote,
With the God of Israel help, we do not let children read inappropriate books. I do not care the child can read or not read. With the God of Israel help, the African American male could not buy anything without the help of the God of Israel. Without the God of Israel, we cannot do nothing. Or the teacher missed a crucial factor in teaching, and the crucial factor is praying for the God of Israel guidance in teaching. Teacher cannot teach with the God of Israel. Without the God of Israel guidance, knowledge, and discernment, we as teachers and citizens of America cannot do anything.
At Bluesy Panda 6728 wrote,
Not just school, even as becoming adults, they will walk into jobs where they can't do the bare minimum to just be at the job they were hired for.
At 201950201950 wrote,
What the hell are you people talking about? I heard these same comments when I was a kid. And I'm a Gen Xer. My grandson, which is Generation Y. When he was in kindergarten, he could read better than I could in second grade. If you want to blame a generation, blame a fucking parents.
At Havelabas 2638 wrote,
As a teacher in France, I can assure you that these problems are actually not national, but international. Lack of funding, lack of support to both kids and teachers, from the parents and institution, declining attention span, increase of having to dumb down the curricula, etc. I'm 5 years into the job. It's been all I ever wanted to do. I love my job, but I can feel I won't be able to do it my whole life. My days consist of trying to compensate the lack of interest and enthusiasm of students, or creating more trying to appropriate conditions to teach by acting as a police officer. I'm under 30 right now, but I know at some point I won't have the energy to keep doing it unless something changes.
At Arbyware Hamburglar wrote,
Yeah, I will say, as someone who has the honestly, horribly mortifying, which is why I joke about it so much, ASD symptom where I can't tell when I have to pee until I have to pee, and whose brother has Hirschsprungs, there is a vast difference between accidents happen and we plan for them. But that's your responsibility, and your parents should prepare you versus I am sending my child off to you with no potty training. Have fun, glorified babysitter. I've been a Sunday school children's classes teacher, and we're not even allowed to think about changing a nursery kid's diaper. I don't know when this culture shift happened, but I think I missed the memo or something. Great video overall, honestly. I loved having it in the background while I did my crossword.
At Shadowwalker 2006 wrote,
As soon as I could walk, my parents made sure I'm potty trained. Like diapers are not that cheap, and the work to change them all the time is something they absolutely didn't want. They would have been ashamed if I went to elementary school with a diaper on. So what is wrong with the parents today? It's not the kids' fault, it's the parents.
At Dax Babadol wrote,
Unless your child has a medical reason, they should be potty trained before getting to kindergarten. I was teaching my kids the alphabet and shapes and colors before they were even 1 year old. I used flashcards and rewarded them for doing them. By the time they got to school, they went off like gangbusters. My son did better than my daughter with the flashcards, but I still kept with it.
At Extoboas Girls wrote,
Phi, COVID the disease, not the 6-month lockdowns we had in 2020, causes significant drops in IQ and actual permanent brain damage. -7 IQ points per infection. But we only have 1 PO in T3 million infections a day in the USA. So obviously COVID is over, even though we only had 600 this time in 2020. I'm sure that's not contributing to this, though. I mean, why would you need IQ or a non-damaged brain?
At Suze 3218 wrote,
Teachers are fed up their students can't read? What? Isn't it their job to teach them? Just saying. Clearly they have failed at their jobs. You have the kids more than the parents do, since the parents have them mostly during the sleeping hours of a day. 5 days a week, 8 hours a freaking day these so-called teachers have them. So teachers, why have you failed to teach them to read? You were paid to do so. For pity's sake, it is what the taxpayers paid you to do. Now you are trying to blame someone else for your failure. Unbelievable. How about take some personal accountability? What the hell have you been doing all day with their kids? Inquiring minds want to know. I can't believe people can't see the obvious here. I grew up with parents who didn't teach me to read, but I learned it in public school in my day, so clearly they should be able to do the same freaking thing today. If you are paid full-time to teach, then teach. If you can't do that, then you should be fired.
At Krista Mays 7167 wrote,
And also, YOU have TOASKFORANIEP. They do not offer it. The teachers, the principals, the admins. They don't offer it. You have to ask for it.
At Krista Mays 7167 wrote,
It's funny how they think parents working full-time is time to help my kid. Kid gets off the bus at 5. Dinner at 6. Bath at 7. And bedtime is 8. So when do I have time?
At AB 2023 wrote,
So your take is that parents are lazy and sitting around watching TikTok instead of teaching their kids to read, while using videos you found on TikTok to make your point? Are you even a parent? Your content is trash. Our education system is broken and teachers may not be the cause, but it doesn't fall on the parents who are told we need to hand our kids over to these indoctrination factories. I was hoping for some good insight, but instead I get some low-level commentary on a few teachers' opinions on parents.
At AB 2023 wrote,
451 Get to the point about reading. My kids are very disciplined and were potty trained and doing chores at 3. They can't read at 9 and 11. I let them play not on devices after school. I'm not spending the rest of their day doing school work they should have learned at school in the 7 hours they were there. Now I'm homeschooling one and will be homeschooling all 3 soon.
At Asgard 1522 wrote,
SPED is now being overwhelmed with IEPs. School psychs are being told to qualify students of parents who are pressing for their students' eligibility. Imagine a wild class of 15 SPED kids, no aids, and they're expected to show growth in reading. That's not the whole caseload, that's 10 to 15 IEPs per grade level. So much for small group. There's fantasy, and there's reality. These expectations are absolute fantasy.
At Mago T3W wrote,
I've worked in a lot of places where employees do the bare minimum and get away with it because the standards for competency have dropped. The sad truth is we're going to be living in a country where it will be the norm for fast food workers to not know how to read. That's the direction we're headed towards.
At Jackie Warnick Pyatt 8008 wrote,
Not just LM school. College, too. 2 18-year-olds slept through first class, skipped next 5 classes in a row, and then asked to make up the assignments. Sorry, no.
At 82 Msasweetie wrote,
Middle school teacher here with 20 years of experience, and I can tell you that Gen Alpha can not read. This generation is what I call the microwave generation cause they want something instantaneously with no effort. My biggest gripe with this generation is the teachers are blamed for everything and never believed. I can't tell you how many times I have been told my child would never behave that way, or my child wouldn't say that. Yes, your child does cuss and behave that way.
Athisasumdumsh 1790 wrote,
Dog, I thought this was some shit that older folks just like to make up and complain about. Nah, all my cousins' kids are actually dumb. I don't mean they aren't good kids or that they're just being kids. They're actually not smart. My 14-year-old second cousin couldn't tell how old she was in 2017. I said just subtract 8, and she still couldn't comprehend. I had to explain how I knew to subtract 8 in the first place. Her parents don't explain anything ever and don't give a shit that her and her brother are still having to sound out words, and just give them an iPad when they bother them too much. None of them have a natural learning disability either. Apparently their whole class is like that. It's not all kids, but Jesus, it's a lot.
Divu who wrote,
I can't confirm this, and I have no concrete evidence, but I think this is by design. If we think about how hard companies are pushing AI, and how students are increasingly wanting to fall back to using AI as a result of being unable to focus, not wanting to do more thought-provoking work, etc. This all fuels into a cycle that encourages low attention spans and mindless consumers who'll then be more inclined to keep feeding AI profits. And also it makes them easier to manipulate by certain higher powers. The breaking down of educators who want to give students the proper education they need, but can't because the students aren't ready for it. And I think that students are coming into a world that is very hostile to them. The job market, the housing market, the people around them, global conflicts and issues, the politics and conflicts within their own country. As such, they become easy targets for mindless scrolling and short-form content as people who aren't being prepared to navigate a world that doesn't actually have their best interests in mind despite it claiming so. And then, when they eventually become parents, the cycle repeats. Again, I can't confirm this, but this is at least the trap these students will probably fall into if they can't start learning to engage in learning the way they should.
At Arinchlegel 9194 wrote,
I homeschool my kids. My son is in 10th grade and is getting to where he's struggling in math, and I don't remember how to do what he's learning, so guess what? I went through his math book and learned how to do it myself in order to help him. It is the parents' responsibility to make sure their kids aren't falling behind.
Xeton wrote,
Gen Alpha is a generation raised in daycare by parents who were raised in daycare. Who has the example of a mother teaching the baby? They did not have the experience of old-style nurturing. This lack is now affecting all of society. Tired mothers who gave their best to the career or job are not ideally suited to nurturing. They will do their best, but we have created a system where the organic, natural parenting is almost non-existent because it requires the parents' best energies. The teachers would have an easier time if the child had been raised by a full-time nurturing adult in the small group setting of a family.
At Epic_Spectrum wrote,
I would be interested in looking at where things work. If most schools' teachers struggle with unmotivated, disinterested children and non-cooperative parents, find the few places that still work. What are they doing differently? Also, I personally can't really blame Gen A for lacking incentive to strive for academic brilliance. In the shadow of the overall geopolitical situation, discussions of climate change, the cost of living crisis, and rapidly developing AI everything, I find it very understandable that they don't think it will make much difference to their future.
At Maria Taylor 2338 wrote,
If you can't read, you cannot communicate. So you tear the room up instead. Duh! Start holding these parents accountable. Resources. Audit all these schools, cause we pay taxes, and want to know where it is going. WTF.
At Maria Taylor 2338 wrote,
So no more must be potty trained. Count to 100. Alphabet and basic phonetics have said. Crazy, I'm out. Justified is a developmentally delayed child with an IEP.
A folding chair Johnson wrote,
Instinctively, we want to have families. Mentally, well, I say most adults can barely write an X on a Scantron spreadsheet. It really said the state of people now.
At Tiffanyvu 2763 wrote,
This is so true. I help out my dad tutor, my sisters as well as my nephew when I was younger, and I always wonder why they had such easy and little homework, and none of them can't read. The curriculum was so different from when I was their age, and I had to teach them how to read and write as well as math. Now they are doing so well. Have a little sis who just started kindergarten, and I read to her every day, and now she able to read by herself on books above her reading level.
At Dawn 710 wrote,
So I have 3 kids, all 2 years apart. My oldest and youngest are in honors gifted classes. My middle missed first grade BC of COVID, and the teachers pushed him through to the next grade. I meet at the teacher's grade missed first grade BC. I'm giving missed for Dr. Darby flag. He is struggling when I'm in reading really badly. Isn't just in the 6th grade now.